Ambassador Kim Hana walked slowly into the massive alien chamber on Nexus Prime Station. The room was huge, with walls that seemed to stretch up forever and strange lights that moved like liquid across the ceiling. Hundreds of alien beings filled. The curved seats, their eyes, sensors, and other strange organs all focused on her. She had practiced this moment 1,000 times, but standing here now felt different. The air itself seemed thick with judgment and barely hidden mockery. These beings represented the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, and they had already decided what they thought of humanity. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," Hana began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I am Ambassador Kim Hana of Earth. Humanity requests membership in the Interstellar Trade Consortium and recognition as a spacefaring civilization." Sound like breaking glass filled the chamber. It took Hana a moment to realize it was laughter from the Zephyrian delegates, beings that looked like living crystals. Their leader, a towering figure that sparkled with inner light, spoke in a voice like wind chimes in a storm. "Spacefaring civilization?" The translator made the alien words sound amused. "Show us these achievements that make you worthy to stand among the stars." Hana activated her holographic display. Images of Earth's greatest accomplishments filled the air above her head. Fusion power plants that could light entire cities. Quantum computers that could solve problems in seconds. Spacecraft that had carried humans to Mars and the moons of Jupiter. She had barely begun speaking when the laughter started again. This time it came from the Karathi section. These aliens looked like living metal, tall and broad with skin that gleamed like polished steel. Their representative stood up, his massive form making the platform shake slightly. "Fusion power?" His voice boomed across the chamber like thunder. "My people were splitting atoms for energy when your species was still throwing rocks at each other. This is what you call advanced technology?" More laughter joined in. The insectoid Vex made clicking sounds that their translators turned into mocking giggles. Their compound eyes reflected the holographic display in thousands of tiny fragments. "Quantum computers," one of them buzzed. "How precious. Our hive minds process information faster than your machines could ever dream." Hana kept her face calm, but inside she was recording everything. Every laugh, every dismissive gesture, every species that chose to humiliate humanity today. Her neural implant stored it all for later analysis. The worst came from Council Leader Vorthak himself. The massive reptilian being dominated the center of the chamber, his yellow eyes glowing with ancient wisdom and fresh contempt. When he spoke, his voice made the entire room go quiet. "Human," he said, making the word sound like an insult. "Your species shows some small promise. Perhaps in a few thousand years you might develop something worth our attention. But right now you are children playing with toys and calling yourselves engineers." The chamber erupted again. Aliens who had never agreed on anything before found unity in their amusement at humanity's expense. Some made sounds Hana had never heard before. Others flashed lights or changed colors in what she assumed were expressions of mockery. A delegate from the ethereal collective, beings of pure energy contained in glowing suits, added their voice to the chorus. "Your spacecraft moves slower than our children's toys. Your weapons could not harm a single one of our defensive drones. What exactly do you offer that we could possibly want?" "Raw materials," suggested a Karathi, and the laughter grew louder. "Perhaps they could mine asteroids for us. With supervision, of course." Hana felt heat rise in her cheeks but kept her voice level. "Respected Council Leader, humanity has achieved much in our short time among the stars. We have established colonies on multiple worlds, developed sustainable fusion technology, and created artificial intelligence systems that— Artificial intelligence? The Zephyrian leader's crystals rang like bells as he shook with laughter. "We merged our consciousness with quantum computers millions of years ago. Your AI is like calling a spark plug an engine." Vorthak raised one massive clawed hand and the chamber fell silent again. His yellow eyes fixed on Hana with the weight of eons behind them. "The decision of this council is final," he announced. "Humanity is denied membership in the Interstellar Trade Consortium Furthermore, your species is restricted to your home solar system until such time as you develop actual technological sophistication. He paused, letting the words sink in. You may return in a few centuries when you have something real to show us. The dismissal was complete. As the alien delegates began filing out of the chamber, many continued their conversations about the amusing primitive humans and their pathetic technology. Some made jokes about humanity's fusion reactors. Others wondered aloud if humans had even invented the wheel yet. Ambassador Kim Hana gathered her materials with careful dignity. She bowed politely to the departing aliens, thanking them for their time and consideration. Her face showed nothing but diplomatic grace and acceptance of their decision. But as she walked toward the exit, past aliens still chuckling about human primitiveness, she allowed herself one small smile. Her neural implant had recorded everything, perfectly. Every species that had laughed, every delegate who had shown contempt, every word of dismissal and mockery. Back on her transport ship, alone in her quarters, Hana composed a message to Earth Command. Her fingers moved quickly across the quantum communicator as she typed a single line that would change everything. Phase 1 complete. They suspect absolutely nothing. 6 months had passed since the humiliation at Nexus Prime, and now Admiral Park Jin-woo stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching death approach. On his tactical display, 200 Karathi warships moved through space like metal sharks hunting for blood. Each alien vessel was 3 times larger than his biggest ship, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Admiral, called Lieutenant Lee Mina from her communications station, the Karathi commander wants to talk. Jinwoo nodded, straightening his uniform. Around him, his bridge crew looked nervous. Their hands shook slightly as they worked at their stations. Sweat beaded on their foreheads despite the cool air. To anyone watching, they looked like terrified humans facing impossible odds. The main screen flickered, showing the sneering face of Fleet Commander Yaktel. The alien's metallic skin gleamed under his ship's lights, and his red eyes glowed with cruel amusement. Pathetic humans, Yaktel's translated voice boomed through the bridge. Your time of pretending to own space is over. Mars and Europa belong to the Karathi Empire now. Your colonies there will surrender immediately. Jinwoo kept his voice steady and polite. Commander, those worlds were settled by human families. We cannot abandon our people. Then you will die with them. Yaktel laughed, the sound like grinding metal. Look at your pitiful fleet. 30 rust buckets against 200 of our finest warships. I almost feel sorry for you. Behind Yaktel, other Karathi officers joined in the laughter. They pointed at their screens showing the human ships, making jokes about primitive technology and weak humans who thought they could fight real warriors. Your weapons are toys, one of them called out. Your ships are held together with hope and metal scraps. This will not be a battle. This will be an execution. Jinwoo looked around his bridge at his crew. Captain Seo Minji at Tactical looked pale and frightened. Communications Officer Kim Taeho wiped sweat from his brow. Engineer Choi So-min's hands trembled as she monitored their reactor output. Very well, Jinwoo said quietly. If you insist on attacking our colonies, we will defend them. Excellent. Yaktel clapped his metallic hands together. I was hoping you would resist. It makes the victory so much sweeter when the enemy fights back uselessly. The Karathi fleet spread out in perfect formation, their massive dreadnoughts moving like dancers in a deadly ballet. Energy weapons charged with power that made space itself glow around them. Shield generators hummed with force that could deflect asteroid impacts. The human ships looked tiny by comparison. Simple metal hulls painted with basic colors. Weapons that fired solid projectiles instead of energy beams. Engines that burned chemical fuel instead of antimatter. Everything about them screamed primitive technology. The battle began exactly as everyone expected. Karathi energy beams lanced across space, brilliant blue-white lances of destruction that found their targets with computer precision. The first human ship exploded in a ball of fire and metal fragments. Then another. Then a third. Too easy, Yaktel laughed as he watched human vessels die. Their shields cannot even slow our weapons. Their armor crumples like paper. Across the galaxy, news broadcasts showed the slaughter. Human media reported the deaths of brave crews facing impossible odds. Alien networks celebrated another victory over upstart primitives who had dared to challenge their betters. More human ships fell to the overwhelming firepower. Their simple kinetic weapons bounced harmlessly off Karathi energy shields. Their chemical missiles were shot down by point defense systems before they could reach their targets. "Sir," whispered Captain Seo Minji, leaning close to Jinwoo's ear. "Should we activate?" "Not yet," Jinwoo replied calmly, watching another human ship turn into debris. "Let them enjoy their victory. Let them think they understand what they're fighting." On the Karathi flagship, Fleet Commander Yaktel was already planning his victory celebration. Half the human fleet was destroyed, and the rest would follow in minutes. He opened a channel to broadcast his triumph across Karathi space. "Citizens of the Empire," he announced, "witness the pathetic end of human arrogance. Their primitive ships burn like candles in the void. Soon we will claim their colonies and show the galaxy what happens to those who—" His words stopped as his sensor officer called out in alarm. Something was wrong with the remaining human ships. Their energy signatures were changing in ways that made no sense. Admiral Park Jinwoo smiled coldly as he opened a secure channel to Earth Command. His voice was no longer that of a desperate human facing defeat, but something much more dangerous. "Control, this is Determination Actual. The Karathi have taken the bait. They believe we're helpless primitives using outdated technology. Permission to show them what humanity actually built." The voice that came back from Earth was equally cold. "Permission granted, Admiral. Authorization Omega-7 is active. Execute. Protocol Lazarus." Jinwoo turned to his crew, and suddenly their frightened expressions were gone. Instead of terrified humans, they looked like predators who had finished playing with their prey. "You heard the order," Jinwoo said to his bridge crew. "Drop the masks. Show them our real faces." Captain Seo Minji's hands moved over her tactical controls with deadly precision. "Gladly, sir. Lazarus Protocol is go. Let's teach these aliens why they should never laugh at human technology." Across the human fleet, hull plating began to retract like flower petals opening to the sun. The transformation happened in seconds, but to Fleet Commander Yaktel it felt like watching his universe collapse in slow motion. The human ships that had been dying under his guns suddenly shed their outer hulls like snakes shedding old skin. What emerged underneath made his metallic hands shake against his command chair. Where primitive vessels had struggled moments before, something completely different now floated in the black of space. The new hulls gleamed with surfaces that seemed to bend light around them. Strange patterns flowed across the metal like living things. Weapons emerged from hidden bays, sleek and deadly, humming with power that made his sensors scream warnings. "What is this?" Yaktel whispered, staring at his tactical display. "What are these ships?" Admiral Park Jinwoo's face appeared on the main screen, but he looked nothing like the desperate human commander from minutes before. His smile was cold as winter space, and his eyes held the confidence of someone who had been playing a game while his enemies thought they were fighting a war. "This is humanity's true face, Commander," Jinwoo said calmly. "The one we chose not to show your Galactic Council." The first human weapon fired, and reality itself seemed to twist. A Karathi heavy cruiser was there one moment and simply gone the next. Not exploded, not destroyed. Gone, as if it had never existed at all. Yaktel's sensor officer screamed in panic. "Commander, our instruments show no weapon discharge, no energy beam, no projectile, nothing. The ship just stopped being there." "Quantum displacement cannon," Captain Seo Minji explained cheerfully from her weapons station, her voice coming through the communication channel with terrifying politeness. "We remove the target from this dimensional phase. Very clean, don't you think?" More human weapons opened fire, and the Karathi fleet began dying in ways that violated everything they knew about warfare. Energy shields that could stop antimatter blasts offered no protection against weapons that attacked matter at the level of individual atoms. Navigation systems failed, as human ships created gravitational fields that shouldn't exist, pulling Karathi vessels into spinning death spirals. "Impossible," Yaktel roared at his terrified crew. "Our shields are the strongest in the galaxy. Our weapons are powered by antimatter. How are they doing this?" His answer came in the form of more impossible weapons. Temporal displacement mines appeared throughout his formation, not launched from the human ships but materialized from attacks that came from moments in the future. Several Karathi dreadnoughts found themselves caught in bubbles of accelerated time, their crews aging decades in seconds while their ships crumbled to rust and dust. Engineer Choi Soman's voice joined the communication channel from another human ship. Time manipulation is actually quite simple once you understand quantum mechanics properly. We've been using it for mining operations for over a century. A century. The words hit Yaktel like physical blows. These humans had possessed time manipulation technology for 100 years while his people thought they were primitive. His flagship shook as something attacked it directly. Not weapons fire, but the ship's own systems began failing as human. Technology reached through his shields and armor as if they weren't there. Life support fluctuated. Gravity generators sparked. The lights dimmed and flickered. "They're inside our computers," his technical officer shouted. "Somehow they're rewriting our code from the outside. Our own systems are turning against us." "Quantum consciousness interfacing," Lieutenant Lee Mina explained helpfully. "We can talk to any computer system directly, regardless of firewalls or security. Your ship's AI is quite chatty, by the way. It's telling us all about your weaknesses." Within an hour, the mighty Karathi fleet was reduced to floating debris and disabled hulks. Ships that had been the pride of an interstellar empire now drifted helplessly through space, their crews trapped inside vessels that no longer obeyed their commands. Fleet Commander Yaktel sat in his ruined command chair, emergency lighting casting strange shadows across his metallic features. His flagship's main power was gone. Life support was failing. Half his crew was dead and the other half wished they were. "How?" he gasped into his communicator, hoping the humans could still hear him. "How do you possess such technology? Our intelligence services studied your world for decades. We saw your primitive factories, your simple computers, your chemical rockets. Everything was documented." Admiral Jinwoo's face appeared on his flickering emergency screen, and Yaktel could see the terrible truth in the human's eyes. "You saw exactly what we wanted you to see," Jinwoo said simply. "Museum pieces. Technology we abandoned 300 years ago but kept running specifically for visitors like you. That's impossible. The archaeological records, the industrial sites we observed, the research facilities. All carefully maintained theater," Jinwoo interrupted. "Every alien visitor to human space follows predetermined routes, sees predetermined facilities, and encounters predetermined technology. What you thought was our current capability was actually our ancient history." The implications crashed over Yaktel like a collapsing star. "Every first contact, every trade mission, every diplomatic exchange. Intelligence gathering operations," Jinwoo confirmed. "We've been studying your species for decades, learning your languages, mapping your territories, understanding your military capabilities and strategic weaknesses. While you thought you were dealing with primitive humans barely capable of interplanetary flight, we were positioning ourselves throughout your space using cloaking technology that makes us invisible to your sensors." Yaktel's voice came out as a broken whisper. "What are you? What are you really?" Admiral Park Jinwoo's smile was colder than the void between stars. "We're the species your council laughed at. We're the primitives you dismissed. And we're the ones who have been watching you make fools of yourselves for 3 centuries, waiting for you to make exactly this mistake." The emergency session of the Galactic Council happened so fast that some delegates arrived still wearing their sleeping clothes. The same chamber that had echoed with laughter at humanity's expense now buzzed with panicked whispers and fearful glances. News of the Karathi fleet's total destruction had spread across the galaxy in hours, and nobody could explain how it happened. Ambassador Kim Hana entered the chamber, but she was a different person than the one who had begged for membership 6 months ago. She walked with her head high, her steps confident, and her eyes cold as winter stars. The delegates who had mocked her before now shifted nervously in their seats as she passed. Council Leader Vorthak's reptilian hands shook as he called the session to order. His yellow eyes, once filled with arrogant dismissal, now showed naked fear. "Ambassador Hana," his voice cracked slightly, We need to understand what happened to the Karathi fleet. Our sensors recorded weapon signatures that our best scientists cannot identify. Hana smiled, and the expression made several aliens lean back in their chairs. I'm sure they can't identify them, Council Leader. Your science hasn't discovered the principles these weapons operate on yet. A Zephyrian delegate's crystal body flashed angry red colors. That's impossible. Our neural networks are the most advanced computational systems in known space. We would have detected such capabilities during our visits to your world? Would you? Hana asked pleasantly. Tell me, what did your trade missions see when they visited Earth? What technology did they document? We saw fusion reactors, chemical propulsion systems, silicon-based computers, the Zephyrian replied, confusion making his crystals dim. All primitive compared to our own achievements. Yes, you did see those things, Hana agreed, and you documented them very thoroughly. Every detail recorded, every weakness noted, every limitation analyzed. You were very proud of how completely you understood our capabilities. The chamber fell silent as the implication sank in. You saw exactly what we wanted you to see, Hana continued calmly. For 300 years, every alien visitor to human space has followed carefully planned routes. They visit predetermined facilities, meet predetermined people, and observe predetermined technology. Vorthak's claws scraped against his chair. You're saying everything we observed was fake? Not fake, Hana corrected. Real, but obsolete. Those fusion reactors you documented? We built them as museum pieces to show visitors. The chemical rockets, maintained specifically for alien observation, the silicon computers, antiques we kept running for your entertainment. The insectoid Vex delegate's compound eyes reflected the chamber's lights as she processed this information. But we observed your archaeological sites. We studied your historical development. The progression from primitive to current technology was clearly documented. Archaeological sites that we created, Hana said simply. Historical records that we wrote. Development timelines that we staged. Everything you learned about humanity came from sources we controlled. The chamber erupted in alarmed voices. Delegates demanded explanations, accused humanity of impossible deceptions, and frantically tried to understand what this meant for their own civilizations. A delegate from the ethereal collective, his energy form flickering with agitation, spoke above. The noise. Even if you could maintain such a deception about your technology, you could not hide your territorial extent. Our surveys have mapped every human colony. Hana's smile grew wider. Have they? How many human colonies do your records show? 17. The ethereal replied confidently. Mars, Europa, Titan, and 14 others in your home system and nearby stars. Your surveys found 17 colonies because we allowed you to find 17 colonies, Hana said. Our actual territorial extent includes over 3,000 star systems, with colonies and installations that your sensors cannot detect. The silence that followed was complete. Even the chamber's air recycling system seemed to quiet as the implications settled over the assembled aliens. Vorthak's voice came out as a whisper. 3,000 systems? Cloaking technology, Hana explained as if discussing the weather. We perfected it before your species achieved interstellar flight. Every human world beyond those 17 is invisible to your instruments. We've been your neighbors for centuries, living in the spaces between your territories, and you never knew we were there. A Karathi representative, one of the few survivors from their destroyed fleet, spoke with a shaking voice. Our intelligence, services. We had agents throughout human space. We studied your military capabilities, your industrial capacity, your population centers. You had agents where we allowed you to have agents, Hana interrupted. Every Karathi spy, every surveillance operation, every intelligence-gathering mission operated under our observation and control. We fed your spies carefully crafted information while learning everything about your own capabilities and weaknesses. The chamber's displays suddenly activated without anyone touching the controls. Images appeared showing space around every major alien homeworld. Massive human ships, larger and more advanced than anything in known galactic arsenals, hung in orbit above Karathi Prime, Zephyrian crystal cities, Vex hive worlds, and dozens of other planets. The alien delegates stared in horror at their own worlds now clearly under human guns. Every species that laughed at our primitive technology, Hana said into the stunned silence, now has our advanced fleets positioned above your most important worlds. While you were celebrating your superiority, we were moving into position around your homes. Vorthak's reptilian features had gone completely pale. How long? He asked weakly. How long have your ships been there? Some for decades, Hana replied. Others we moved into position after your council's decision to deny us membership. We wanted to see how you would treat a species you considered inferior. The truth settled over the chamber like a suffocating blanket. Everything they thought they knew about humanity was wrong. Every assumption about human weakness was false. Every decision based on human primitiveness was catastrophically mistaken. Ambassador Kim Hana looked around the silent chamber at the aliens who had once mocked her people. The question now, she said quietly, is what happens next. The silence in the Galactic Council chamber felt like the moment before lightning strikes. Outside the great windows of Nexus Prime Station, the stars looked different now. What had once seemed like distant suns marking the edges of known space might actually be human territories that had been hidden for centuries. Council Leader Vorthak's yellow eyes darted between the displays showing human fleets above alien homeworlds and Ambassador Kim Hana's calm face. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded like sand scraping against metal. What do you want from us? Hana folded her hands in front of her, the picture of diplomatic politeness. But her eyes held the coldness of deep space. What we want is very simple, Council Leader. We want recognition of reality. You tricked us, hissed the Zephyrian delegate, his crystal body flashing angry colors. This entire charade breaks every law of interstellar relations. Does it? Hana asked mildly. Which law says a species must reveal all their secrets to potential enemies? Which treaty requires us to make ourselves helpless before those who would destroy us? She gestured toward the screens still showing human warships positioned above alien cities. 6 months ago, this council denied humanity membership because we were too primitive. The Karathi then demanded our colonies, claiming we had no right to space territory. How many other weak species have been conquered using the same excuse? How many worlds have been stolen by civilizations who declared themselves superior? The uncomfortable shifting among the delegates gave her the answer she expected. Humanity chose patience over violence, Hana continued. We could have arrived centuries ago with our true fleets and taken what we wanted by force. Instead, we watched. We learned. We gave galactic civilization every chance to show wisdom and fairness. A small delegate from a minor species in the back raised a trembling appendage. And what was your judgment of us? Mixed, Hana admitted. Some species showed promise. Others proved they would attack anyone they thought was weak, without cause or mercy. Admiral Park Jinwoo entered the chamber, still wearing his battle uniform from the destruction of the Karathi fleet. Behind him walked 2 humans. The aliens had never seen before. Their very presence seemed to make the air shimmer around them, as if reality bent slightly in their vicinity. The immediate situation is this, Jinwoo announced, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had just proven his power beyond question. The Galactic Council is dissolved as of now. It will be replaced by the Interstellar Assembly, with membership based on actual technological capability and territorial extent. You cannot simply overthrow thousands of years of galactic law, protested the Vex delegate, her compound eyes reflecting fear in hundreds of tiny fragments. We can, said one of Jinwoo's companions, a woman whose uniform bore no rank insignia, but whose presence made even the Admiral defer to her. Our fleets control the space around every major world in this galaxy. Our technology surpasses yours by centuries. Our territory extends into regions you have never even explored. By every measure you have used to determine galactic leadership, humanity qualifies. Vorthak looked around the chamber at his fellow representatives, seeing his own terror reflected in their alien faces. What guarantees do we have? What promise that humanity will not simply eliminate us all? Hana's smile was sharp as a blade. The same guarantee you offered to primitive species when this council decided their fates. None at all. The difference is that we are offering you a choice. What choice? Whispered the ethereal delegate, his energy form flickering with desperation. Work with us or work for us, Jinwu replied simply. Species that accept the new reality and contribute constructively to the interstellar assembly will find humanity to be generous partners. We have much to offer those who prove themselves worthy allies. The unnamed woman beside him continued the thought. Those who resist or attempt to undermine human authority will discover that our patience has limits. The Karathi learned this lesson recently. We hope others will be wiser. A young delegate from one of the newer spacefaring species raised her voice. What about species like mine? We never mocked humanity. We barely knew you existed. Hana's expression softened slightly. Innocent species have nothing to fear from us. The Assembly will protect smaller civilizations from the kind of predatory behavior this council often ignored. Your people may find the new order more just than the old one. Vorthak's claws scraped against his chair as he struggled with the new reality. How do we know you are telling the truth? How do we know this is not simply conquest disguised as justice? You do not know, Admiral Jinwu said bluntly. Just as the species you conquered never knew if your promises were true. The difference is that we have given you proof of our capabilities, while you never gave your victims any choice at all. As the weight of their situation settled over the assembled delegates, one final question came from the back of the chamber. An old representative from a species so ancient that few remembered their name spoke in a voice like wind through dead leaves. Ambassador Hana, in all your centuries of watching us, what else have you discovered? What other secrets does humanity possess that we cannot even imagine? Kim Hana gathered her materials and stood to leave. The chamber where humanity had once been humiliated and dismissed would never again echo with such arrogance. As she walked toward the exit, past aliens who now watched her with the respect born of fear, she delivered her final words. Everything, she said simply. We know everything about you, and you know nothing about us. That balance will not change until you prove you deserve our trust. The age of alien dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun.